Well, hi, everybody. Welcome to the Meno Lounge monthly series, where once a month we hop on with our in-house medical advisor, Dr. LaReesa Ferdinand, and we talk all things menopause. And so, super excited today because I'll see if Dr. LaReesa is here, but earlier this week, I was in Los Angeles, actually early last week, in LA on a panel talking about nutrition optimized for menopause and midlife. And by the way, MenoWell method, the pilot, is still available. We have a few spaces here. I see you, LaReesa. I'm going to bring you up. So DM me if you want information, or you can go on our website, mymenowell.com, and shop. And it's the last button after the bars. You'll see information about the MenoWell method and the pilot program. I just did a Q&A this morning, so if you want me to send you the recording on the Q&A, I can do that. Women are so excited, and we'd love to have you in the few spaces we have left, because it starts on Tuesday. So, but what I was saying is, when I was speaking on the panel about nutrition, we also had a doctor. There were so many questions, and they were all female lawyers or in the legal profession. It was so interesting. Stress. But they were asking a lot of questions about bioidentical hormones, and everyone seems to be very confused about this. So I'm going to bring up Dr. LaReesa right now so we can talk about it. And if you have questions, drop your questions in the chat. So let's see, LaReesa, here you are. This conversation all the time, and I still get confused by it. So I thought, let's talk about that today. And Dr. LaReesa always has such a great practical perspective. Hello, are you wearing scrubs today? Did you just come back from the hospital?
Yes. It's my favorite color, green.
I like it. I got the pink, you got the green, right? Let's do this.
Yeah, let's do this. Hi,
All right. Okay,
Julie.
your connection is wobbly a little bit, but I know you're going to
Oh,
catch up here. Okay.
okay.
Or it could be mine.
How is it
Yeah.
now? Well, I think it may be mine because my internet did go out maybe an hour ago. Can you
Yeah.
hear me now? And I tried to reset it.
Gotcha.
So if it happens again, let me know. I might have to switch
Okay.
places or go to 5G or something.
You don't have a hurricane happening in Florida, do you, right now, or what's going on?
No, it's actually pretty sunny right now. Like the daily monsoon has already occurred. So
It's that time
it's
of
nice and
summer where
sunny.
you just get those downpours, usually in the afternoon, though, right? It is afternoon.
Yeah,
What am I
it's
saying?
3 o'clock.
Noon to
Yeah.
me, 3 to you. Yes, just dumps. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Excellent. Well, let's dive in, because I was sharing, you probably heard when you were coming up, at this conference I was speaking at, and there was a doctor there, and they were asking her about bioidenticals. I think women are still confused between bioidenticals and synthetic, and what do I get and what don't I want, and Premarin and the study, like there's still
Mhm.
confusion. So can we talk about that today? Bioidenticals 101.
Yeah, sure. And all the things in between, right? So,
Absolutely. All
abs-
right. So let's start. I'm going to just toss it to you. What is it? What are bioidenticals, and how are they different from synthetic hormones? Let's start with that.
I think that's a great place to start because you're right, there's a lot of confusion, a lot of different practice methods that are across the nation. And then we have one central point that people come to, right? Like the internet, social media, what have you. So, and this is an exciting space to be in. So let's start with some general definitions and where it can appear a little wonky once you hear the definition. So let's start with bioidentical. So let's break it down. So it is a type, and we're going to speak in terms of hormones, hormone therapy that is similar to or mostly identical to what your body would produce. Okay. All right. When we talk about synthetic, these are chemically derived hormones that may come from different sources, like animals, or which, like Premarin, because you brought up that it comes from, derived from mares, right? So horse urine. The thing where it gets a little wonky is that technically bioidentical hormones, yet being that it's more plant derived, similar, most similar or identical to the hormones that you produce, where I find, and through my type of deep dives and rabbit holes that I do myself and see what consumers get, there's some confusion because technically they're still made up in a lab, right? They're still
Right.
derived. So therefore, that's where the confusion is like, wait a minute. Well, so that means they're synthetic then, you know? So I get it. Like, I get it. Right. So, like, the original, because I used to say it simply like, hey, it's most identical to what your hormones make, which is true. Then I take it a step further. It is derived mainly plant based, soy, yams. But you do have to set a molecular structure. And that structure, even though it's in a lab derived from mostly plant based products, is the most similar or identical to the hormones that are derived from your body.
Okay,
All right.
wait. So
So,
identical is not identical
mhm,
to our body, not
mhm,
bioidentical, meaning identical to the synthetic version.
yes,
That's
yes,
huge. I think right
yes,
there, just to make sure
yes.
everyone's
Hmm.
clear, because I think
Hmm.
that was some of the confusion of the audience that, oh, but they're
Hmm.
identical to this other pharmaceutical versus identical, meaning
Hmm.
identical to what we produce in our bodies.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yes,
And
yes. The most
the most,
identical, right? Because still you're deriving it from something, which I think that
yeah.
becomes the confusion. Then let's take that next layer. Let's just go ahead and call it out, right? So it's this huge misconception that if I do not get my hormones from a compounding pharmacy, then it is not bioidentical.
Right.
That's not
Then
true,
there's that.
right?
Okay, so that the
That,
belief
mhm,
was that only bioidenticals came from
mhm,
compounding pharmacies, right? That's the only place versus
mhm.
with your doctor, but that's not true either.
That's not true. Yeah, exactly. So, yes, because you can get other formulations. A most popular one that I prescribe is the patch. The reason why I do so, and I'm talking to many of those women who, hey, I know this might be something for me. I know there may be some misinformation or some confusion out there, but this is a way where they can get it according to their budget because a lot of them may have insurance that covers it or some of it. And then you can be able to, follow through in your drive through. So it's accessible, right? So it doesn't appear that you can't get to it. Other formulations that still can be bioidentical comes in creams and gels, and that formulation can still be considered, going back to our original definition,
Whoops, you froze just a little
produce
bit.
in your body.
Oh,
All right.
say that one more
So
time because you
the,
froze for me. I'm not sure if you froze
my
for me.
connection.
Okay,
Oh,
go ahead.
Oh, okay, yeah, I might have to switch. But still the same, bioidentical, meaning that they are most identical to the hormones that you produce in your body. Okay.
Okay, you might want to
So I
switch your
think I still
connection.
froze. I think I still
Yeah.
froze. Okay, I will. I will. So I'll pop. You fill in some gaps. I'll pop off and then come back
Okay,
on.
this is where
Okay.
I do this song and dance. Da, 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 da.
You could talk about your minnow
Yeah, we were
method. A little bit
talking.
plug there.
Okay, we'll wait for you. This is getting really good.
Okay.
I think it's really, really helpful. So, for me, it's still always new because I was told by my mom, if you haven't heard this story, that hormone replacement therapy was not for me, not for our family, because she had a hysterectomy. So she was very afraid of that. So that's why I ended up creating, MenoWell bars because I needed a natural approach to try to calm my dang body down, calm those just how I felt terrible, weight gain, blah, blah, blah. So this is still such an interesting topic and still confusing, even though we have great, books out there. Hey, Christine, with Dr. Mary Claire Haver and Dr. Sharon Malone and on. I still think that's why it's super important that we talk about this. So if you're just hopping on, Dr. LaReesa was having connection challenges in Florida, so she's going to hop back on here in a second. But I thought it was really great that she said, the definition of bioidenticals is that these are hormones that are created that are identical to what our body produces, not bioidentical, which is identical to a synthetic. I think there was some confusion that bioidenticals are copies, if you will, natural copies of synthetics versus they are replicating what our own identical to what our own body makes. So that was huge right there. And then we were diving in to the fact that bioidenticals also gets confusing because we think that you can only get them from a compounding pharmacy. Who thought that? Let me know in the comments if you thought that. Versus you can also get them, hey Betty, how are you? That you get them from your doctor, and that's what's often in the patch here, or some of the other methods that we might be using. So much, right? We're already struggling, and then it's just confusing on top of that. So Dr. LaReesa is going to come back on, and she just mentioned the MenoWell method. And by the way, she will be popping into the MenoWell method, even though it's all about nutrition. It's all about you deciding. We have women coming into the pilot, which starts next Tuesday. There's a few spots left in. If you want information about it, you can DM me here or email me, julie@mymenowell.com, or just go sign up at mymenowell.com and go to the shop page where the bars are, and it's right there listed, and you can register right there. I did a Q&A this morning, so I have a little recording. If you're on our email list, you'll get a link to that too Sunday, but you don't have to wait if you don't want to. But she's gonna join us, even though we're gonna be talking about nutrition and weight loss. And what I was saying was some women are coming into the pilot program for the MenoWell method because they want to dial in their nutrition. Others want to shed some middle, and everybody's going to be working on their mindset and their beliefs. So whatever adventure they pick and path, it sticks. So it's going to be fun. So what questions do you have for Dr. LaReesa when she comes back on here? I'm going to see if I can scoot down here. Food and family travel. It's not just diet. She asked, is the MenoWell method diet related only? So again, if that's what your goal is, to shed some middle, fantastic. Yes, got you covered. If your goal is to dial in your nutrition and the way you eat to feel more empowered and energetic, got you covered. And then the mindset around the journey that we're on. So I hope that's helpful. Good. Let me know. I love it. Betty says, thanks. She's MenoWell. Really good. Okay, here's LaReesa. Great. Here she comes. Glad I didn't have to sing because I can't sing. I can dance, but I can't sing. Not at all. Not even a little. Bad. Hold on one second. There you are.
Hey, that would have been good. A little tune or two.
No, it would not have. I can dance, I said, but singing, no.
Oh, you should have heard me last night. I did something I usually don't do. I went out on a Wednesday night. I know we're not here talking about that, but it was great. House of Blues, Orlando was great.
And did you sing like karaoke or what?
No, we went to go see an artist, Alan Stone. He's an R&B artist, really good, excellent band. And so whoever was standing within a few feet of me, they heard me sing.
They heard you sing. Oh, is that Dr. LaReesa singing over there?
Oh, I can carry a tune.
Really good. I'm glad you got out. Parents' night out, because Dr. LaReesa has little people. She's in the perimenopause zone, and she's got little people. So that's a whole other thing.
Yes,
love it.
Yes.
All right. So we left off about compounding hormones. So, bioidenticals, you can get them from a prescription from your regular doctor or compounding, right? So
any doctor, any doctor or provider who has prescription privileges based on their state board administration, or how that works with their state individual board, can write a prescription to your pharmacy down the street, which could be compounding or more commercially available, like your big top retailers. So as long as they're a prescribing provider, it could go either way. I think what we were talking about was part of the confusion. There is a dogma out there that includes, well, if it's not from a compounding pharmacy, then it's not bioidentical. And that's untrue. Because you can still get the same formula, considered a bioidentical formulation. A popular one that I use is the patch or forms of patch. And it's bioidentical and you can get it at your pharmacy, meaning that just like the other day, you can scroll on your GoodRx, no pub there, but just saying, all of us want to be budget savvy. And honestly, you can be able to cover your prescription. And even for those where it may be problematic with your insurance company, I will say that look at what these different providers on apps that can be able to tell you how you can cost save. So that's a pearl, a tip I like to add out there. And then do not say no just because your insurance may not cover it, because honestly you could still probably get something beneficial for you at a cash pay price that could be cheaper than you getting your hair done.
Wow.
So I mean literally, because I've seen, I don't go to the beautician all the time because I have to do my own hair, but it's some three digits there on a regular basis that people are doing there. So just know that it could be something you can be able to use, and you don't necessarily have to go through a compounding pharmacy, but there's some options there. And I think you had another question, but later on I'll give you some examples of why, or some of the things where I've utilized a compounding pharmacy.
Okay, good.
Mm-hmm.
We'll come back to this question
here.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So back in the day when when doctors weren't prescribing HRT, hormone replacement therapy, is that when the whole when the compounding pharmacy thing kind of came to the surface? And so, it was like a backroom thing. You'd go get your hormones from the compounding pharmacy. Like, why did it become sort of this weird thing? Like, you have to go over here to get it and not there, like a secret thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. And I think there's different components. And so I'll tell you what I think from an anecdotal standpoint, because historically, compounding pharmacies have been around for a while. We have discussed in many of my peer groups that this is what some of us had known as the apothecary. Right.
Yes.
And especially in times where we were in a national divide, certain people had to get their medication certain places, or they really did depend on natural things from heritage or cultural standpoint. So I want to bring that diversity edge into it, because whatever you've been exposed to culturally could make a difference as well. I think compounding pharmacies got more light and more attention when prescribers stopped prescribing it after the big study, the WHI, the Women's Health Initiative, came out in around 2002, that pretty much put fear around hormone therapy. And since then, there have been a lot of flaws that have been exposed about it, but it gained some learnings where we're getting a lot more attention, where your regular prescriber, your regular PCP used to be one of the forefront, or pretty much the storefront of prescribing hormone therapy. Then it became something about, okay, where do I get it? Or we're concerned where you had now this budding industry that always existed. Right. The compounding pharmacies have always been, always existed, but more popularity of how to get it, and therefore more conversation behind the marketing behind bioidentical and mixed, things behind it. And then, we can do that on a segment as well, where, now pellets are, became popular and became a structure of not only an option for women, but an option where physicians or providers were able to add another additional service, because they did have additional research or things that they could provide, or understand the physiological effects of those particular things. So that's my perspective in the terms of what we may discuss in a peer related sense. I don't know like the numbers and stuff that may go around it, but Just think of it as at some point you had an apothecary or your local drugstore, and then the big tops came, right? And so that's all we know now.
Right.
And and so thus, more regulation. FDA has always been involved, but still, as the pharmaceutical company, pharmaceuticals has expanded, so we had to expand retail to make it more supply demand oriented too.
Excellent. I'm glad you
Mm-hmm.
brought that up. We don't think about that because back
Mm-hmm.
in the day, that's where we got our medicines from the local, apothecary, or, were they pharmacists then? I don't know, but
Mm-hmm.
they were in the back, like
Yes, they're
mixing up the stuff,
pharmacists.
right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, earlier before you dropped off,
Mm-hmm.
you were talking about bioidenticals being derived from plants.
Mm-hmm.
And I really hadn't thought about that, LaReesa.
Mm-hmm.
I'm all about the plant thing.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
okay, I'm gonna put you in the hot seat.
Oh no. Oh
Oh no,
no.
a good seat, not a hot seat. Okay.
Okay.
But, there's such pushback about plant-based solutions.
Mm-hmm.
But what percentage of bioidenticals are plant-based?
Mm. That's a good question. You are putting me in a hot seat a little bit.
Okay, you don't have to answer, but we
No,
can
no,
come
no.
back and talk about
Yeah, we can come back and talk about it. I think a good even thing to discuss is that because there are different pharmaceutical companies that do their own thing and be able to produce their own research, we can say in general that there is some a derived component or chemically identical molecular change that is done in a lab in order to make it most produce close to our to make it as close as possible to the hormones we produce in our body. I keep coming to that point because there are some nuances that truly are behind how people put that together. And I may not know as of now, like what percentage of this actually contributed to that compound to make it most similar to what my body and my natural hormones produce. And
yeah.
especially when you have different manufacturers, and I'm one that always thinks further. And I'm gonna give you an example of that. And I just had this with a patient a couple of times, and maybe I'm speaking to someone out there where they thought that, okay, I only had a certain option available to me, and they had a bad reaction to it, or they didn't like it, or the patch fell off, so I've had a difficult time as far as getting certain brand names of patches that I know may work better in people
Right.
because they may stick better or whatever, and they're having to default to the generic. And so a lot of times I think about, okay, well, I'm not in control of how it's manufactured. Where did they get the adhesion? Those type of things. So I work with a patient to see what are those particular other options that may still be available to them.
Mm.
Another thing to bring up is dosage and formulations. There's certain dosages that are only available in certain administrations where, for example, a common one could be progesterone. The standard capsule dosages, even though bioidentical, is commercially available in only two dose forms, 100 and 200 milligrams. And oftentimes I may have had to tweak, or someone may get a little bit more sensitive, because one thing that we've known across the board as professionals and specialists in here, we have to individualize. And I like to call it the rule of rights: the right person, the right dose, the right administration, and the right time for you,
Right.
and the right provider.
Yes.
And so that's when I've had to possibly use, like, okay, well, I think, I have a trusted compound. It may not be, and that's why you may be familiar that it's not FDA regulated, but they're compounding regulated type corp and vendors that make sure. And I vet them. So I know which ones I want to prescribe to. And so let's alter the dose. So it may be 175 or 150. So that's when I can be able to get a more specific individualized component, because now I'm working with the patient and not necessarily settling on that, okay, well, we have some other options that are still bioidentical for you. And I know that kind of, I answered your question and not able to give some of the details when it comes to manufacturing. But even then, I don't know how much you've derived technically from your source, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Plan or not. So
that's really great. No, you answered that very well.
Okay.
not previously previously discussed before we get on this call, which we
That's
don't. We
okay.
just like we're doing the thing. So
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
no,
Yes.
that's really, really good. And this is what I love about
Mm-hmm.
you. You know, your approach, just because it comes in this dose and this dose does not mean it's your dose. And
Yes.
so,
Mm-hmm.
what do we need to do and to really customize solutions for women? Because you're so right. We're all so different. You
Mm-hmm.
know, we experience this in such a different way. We
Mm-hmm.
got different beliefs, we have different fears, we have different
Mm-hmm.
levels of comfort,
Mm-hmm.
and it's such a challenging time over and above just the physical aspect of it. Let's
Absolutely.
let's look at this question. So food and family
Mhm.
travel. I don't know your name. I'm going to look you up after this,
Okay.
but she's
53.
53, had uterus removed, and uses estradiol 2 times per week. Would I still need topical estrogen or wait for symptoms before adding it? Although we're not
Um,
dispensing
mhm.
medical advice right now.
Yes, yes.
Go
So,
ahead.
and I'll always flip it of, hey, I have something similar, a similar patient, because honestly, a lot of these scenarios I've come across. So, if you can, I want to make sure, because estradiol, which is the most potent hormone that we lose in menopause, some people may know it as E2, or infamously known as E2. But the thing is, estradiol, which can be done bioidentical, um, I wanted to make sure if you're doing twice per week that you're talking about a patch or a specific formulation. And because you asked, do you still need a topical estrogen? So I'm assuming you mean inversion of a cream or a gel. Or so I just want you to clarify so I can make sure I answer your question to the value that you deserve. So, so as you comment, let's see if I can ask another question while she supplies that, so I can make sure I address
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
What is my stance on bioidenticals in women 10 plus years postmenopause? So one of the things I want to bring out, the reason why there's such a push to put more research in this area is because one of the things we learned from the WHI study is that these women were above 60, and many of the areas that really concern women with possible increased risk of breast cancer overall, even matching them based on other studies by the NIH and understanding, like even across that profile, estrogen alone was still most likely very beneficial for women. But what we do know is that the benefit risk ratio. So I love to give this example. You know, when you're watching a commercial and have all these wonderful like drugs,
Yeah.
right?
At
And
the
then the
end,
last few seconds, it's like, do I want that?
like, why would I take that thing? The
Okay, I'm
disclaimer is
not
longer than the
sure.
commercial.
Exactly. So I want to go back to the core of what is important here, benefits versus risk. Because if someone is having a migraine where they can't function quality wise, and they are at wit's end, they have a 17-year-old that's going to college. You don't know what's going on with your 5-year-old any other time of the day other than they're the boss of your home, and you're struggling with gender biases at work, and you're an educated woman and all about what you're doing, but you deal with your own stuff, right? And that's what happens during this period when menopause or these perimenopausal changes, life is still happening. The reason why I'm mentioning that, just like that particular drug, that is what a benefit of what someone may consider and act like they didn't even hear those last few seconds,
Mm,
because it
mm,
really does become a quality of life and benefits risk ratio. So to be straightforward, my stance is, because I individualize and I evaluate the patient, do I consider it? Yes. Do we need additional research? And where it stands right now, we know that the benefits and risk ratio does work better, and more benefits work out for the woman within 10 years of menopause or before the age of 60. Okay. Have there been women that have come to me that are outside of that I've done a complete profile? We've done everything that I've considered, and we've done it, yes, and we've done it magically, and it's done well. All right. But to put a broad stroke and say, across the board, that's why we go back to individualize, understanding your benefits risk ratio, and understand the quality of the life that it can still add to someone.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make sure that we do that.
Thank you. Shout out for all the postmenopausal women. Let's see. I see we have a blogger, Butterfly, said she is on the patch. So I guess that's, and she got it from her
regular
doctor. And Lulu said she sees your Aura ring. Do you like your Aura? I know you love your Aura.
Yes, yeah, I do. I do. And so just shameless plug. So I'm going to start again my Fridays. I used to do Future Female Fridays a while back. And I'm a doctor who's really into how innovation and technology can be used for good, and especially in this perimenopause, menopause space. So it's really exciting. It's really lovely and everything. And so femtech is what we consider those technologies, innovations, but it's expanded to different platforms as well, like functional nutrition and cosmetics and different services and things that relate to personal insights and health to really optimize women's health core and where you are in this point right now. And Oura Ring is one of those things I do, and especially when stress is usually huge around this time period, optimizing sleep is like the new sexy. Honestly, being able to check in on me, right? So I have utilized it for that. They're really expanding. I do not work for them. I do not get paid for them. But anytime someone asks, I definitely tell them I do love my Oura Ring.
I know you do.
But they can, if somebody knows somebody knows somebody.
Right. I'm surprised. Yeah. It's happening.
Yeah,
It's
happening. It's happening. It's coming, right? It's all about what's on your algorithm.
That's right. Manifestation, sister.
Yes,
okay,
right.
so Christine said she loves hearing the history that you were sharing. Betty says we answered Betty's question. Great. Postmenopausal. Marchetti says, how can we know that compounded hormones provided by healthcare personnel is the right option for our specific need? There you go.
Good question. I think the best thing is to arm yourself with questioning ask the provider. So the same, my rule of thumb is the same thing that you were Google searching or scrolling to and you actually clicked are those things you need to ask your doctor about.
Oh, wow. That's
practical,
a golden nugget, right?
Right. Practical tip. And those are the things we forget, right?
So
like,
good.
like, why did I think I coughed and sneezed and something came out. Is that something I need to work? So
that's so good. Go back and look in your Google history, you'll know.
Exactly. And I think right now with some of the heated debate around compounding and what's synthetic or what have you, ask them, okay, well, based on this formulation you're giving me, whether it's a patch, gel, what have you, why have you chosen that? Why do you think I'm the biggest, that's big for me? As Juliet mentioned, I have two young ones at home, 9 and 2 years old. And guess what? The 5 W's and the H, right? So what, when, why, where, so some of those could be some of the baseline questions that can really mount some good synergy between you building a rapport with your provider or making sure they're the right ones for you in this season of life. And then ask them, okay, what is the intention of when I will start seeing a relief of my symptoms?
Because it's not instant, right? I mean, it can take a little bit for some women.
It can definitely take a little bit. Because my general rule is start low and go slow. So, and I tell my patients that I start low and go slow. So this might not be the same dose that you're comparing somewhere else, but I need to know that I'm not going too high and then I can't back down. And that you're not getting any symptoms or side effects that you have that are undesired. So many of those areas that have to do with my approach really does lend itself to some of the questions that you can ask your individual providers. So one, okay, if this is compounded, why did you choose this one? And what is specifically it addressed? It was someone else that had mentioned as far as symptoms, okay, well, if I get hot flashes knocked out and I'm still having vaginal dryness, what are my intended expectations, from that? Because one of the things that I have found amongst my patients is that people who seek me are those who've been dismissed somewhere else, who really want to understand what's going on with their body and how not only they can utilize, whether it's hormone therapy or not, but what are the right tools I need to live better and live longer, because there's some people, they're just like, look, I don't think I need it. I'm not having a hot flash. I'm good. At the same time, some of the other benefits that they may not be understanding to
Protecting the
maximize.
heart.
Yeah, your heart, protect your heart,
Pain.
reducing potential risk, cognitive decline areas or whatever, things that we need more research to support. But the things that we do know and the things that have given a good runway of what's out there really is positive for women who are a good fit for it.
So
So hopefully that helps.
such a good answer. And
Mhm,
not, like you said, what's bothersome to one woman may not be bothersome to another.
mhm,
So making sure that you're not just getting the blanket this or that,
mhm.
focusing on what you want to have as an outcome. Super
Yes,
important.
yes, yes,
Okay,
yes. Okay,
pellets. Pellets.
okay.
Lulu says, what do you think about a pellet? And I've heard a
Mhm.
lot of controversial things about, first, are pellets bioidentical?
Yes, yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
And so why do pellets get a bad rap?
Now, I will say this, there are a couple of major manufacturers that pretty much across the board do all of the standardized pellets for a lot of the providers out there. So that's another question that you can ask, because there are some local pharmacies out there that might do them individual. I can only speak from those that I know and how I've sourced. And since it's regulated on a larger platform, I know where I'm getting it from, right?
Mhm.
So, and it's regulated based on that. I think pellets are a good option. All right. And especially for testosterone replacement for women, what I find is that I feel that the women I have come across who they may have started somewhere and I think they may be on a higher doses than what's necessary, or they were never given the option, all right, of something else. So that is my ball I want to toss in the court. The question, as far as if you decide pellets, just make sure you understand, what are all my options? Is pellet the only thing? And then once again, why do you think the pellet could be good for me? Because one, we're addressing individualization at that point. Number two, you're getting an answer to your question, right? Number three, you have a good idea in mind of what goal you're trying to accomplish and why you started in the first place. Sometimes we forget, like, okay, that was my goal in the first place. I was trying to do this.
Or maybe your
And
goal changes too. Like
goal
one thing was
changes.
bothering you before, and now, so
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think their option, I use different things in what I call the hormone therapy health stack, because you have to address gut, you have to address sleep. It's so necessary to address the nutrients to help support your hormones, your sleep, and the demands of your life. We talked about our last IG, so go back and take a look at that when we talk about mitochondria really helping your cellular energy, your body to really work at its optimal, and KPIs, and dealing with stress in this time of life. So it's a good option. It's not your only option, and going back to make an informed decision, but definitely don't make a decision out of fear. I'm a big one about that, not out of
yeah,
fear.
we don't need to be
Um,
afraid. Can I ask a rat? Okay, because of course I know about, patch and how it works.
mhm.
But a pellet, where did that thing go? You just shoot it in your butt, or like what
Yeah,
happened?
it goes under the skin, and our butt has a nice little fat layer, so so we got a little bit more to work with there. But it's considered, excuse me, goes under the skin. All right, and a nice little layer in there. We numb it up and put it there, and then you can also, for some people, you can do it in the lower abdomen. So there's a certain technique you can do it, but most of the time it's
There's
done in
some
the
fat
gluteal
there
region.
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Oh, it's
Okay.
so funny because I'm on a core program right now. So I'm just like, oh my God, I can feel it. Because I'm all about really stabilizing the central part of your body, the core. So anyway,
Huge. Huge.
Huge,
Oh,
huge, huge.
perfect
Hmm.
segue to health coach
Hmm.
Angela, who was on the Mental Lounge on Tuesday. Make sure you go back and listen to that recording. It was
Hey,
fantastic.
hey, Coach
And she
Angela.
says, "Do you you guys are both in Florida, by the way? Do
Yeah.
you recommend
Mhm.
to start with HRT in your 40s?"
Um, yes,
Loaded
for I
question.
know, yes. If it is the right time to go ahead and start. So just can I share with you how I usually address and I think that would be the best way. So I would say my average patient of coming to see me is kind of like that older millennial now, so that right spot of 45 to 55, because at this point they're either sick of their symptoms that kind of noticed things over the last couple of years, or somebody who really wants to get ahead of the game. They're more into really being in tune with their body and their body's changes. And so I do like a very complete, comprehensive consultation. And the thing is, uniquely, is a lot of people start with HRT. I start with insulin. Yeah,
What?
I'm gonna drop that mic today.
Wow.
So, as far as evaluating someone's biochemical background, so and the reason why is I'm trying to make sure that you live healthier for the rest of your life. HRT is still a very good component, things that we can consider, but I like to make sure I'm looking at your inflammatory biomarkers. So we do a complete panel. So some of those is looking at your fasting glucose, looking at your fasting insulin, looking at your thyroid hormone. If that's messed up, baby, you can throw whatever you want for estrogen and progesterone.
Not a,
No,
not going to go to.
not going to go away, so we have to optimize still some other things and add that into the tool. And so since women experience this height of changes within their body around their 40s, it usually is around that time frame
Yeah.
that we're talking about hormone therapy. But I look at the whole frame because you got to start with the end in mind, right? So if that's the case, I understand where you are as far as your cardiovascular risk, how you metabolize your blood sugar. I understand exactly how serious your inflammation can be based on, some other areas of your complete panel. And ideally am able to really add that holistic touch, right? So I'm really talking about like the sum of your parts and not just separating it, because your whole body is being affected by the loss of estrogen. Estrogen has 400 functions in your body.
Yeah.
So
Huge.
it's important that we just don't isolate one thing.
Like
Um,
so many mic drops in there. Love it. I love
you're so
you for
funny.
that. Okay.
Oh, thank
So
you. Hmm.
Bronwyn, thank you. Bronwyn of Food and Family. She was had the question about the uterus and estradiol
Hmm.
used vaginally is what she said. Going back to that previous
Oh,
question,
oh,
LaReesa, and
okay.
we were asking what she was referring to with the estradiol.
Oh, okay. So she's using it vaginally. So
Yay for
twice
that.
a week. Yeah, yeah, that's good stuff. Uh,
Lifesaver.
life.
Okay.
And I have to make sure I go back to the question and make sure I answer the all the components. So I
Yeah.
apologize. So I use and move and use extra twice a week. What I still need to talk about. Oh, okay, yeah. All right. So in terms of that, um, the question and answer is, if you started off with vaginal estrogen for a particular reason, and it could be for vaginal atrophy or vaginal dryness, things that are related to genital urinary syndrome of menopause. So you're having irritative urinary symptoms or frequency, or what we call stress incontinence, where you feel like you may be losing a little urine as well when you cough or sneeze, or any kind of stress in that area. Or increased risk of UTIs, right? So all this great stuff. Okay,
Okay.
so we're
Stop.
not falling
Stop.
apart. We're
Stop.
not falling apart. And I'm sorry, I tend to mention that because many people end up on antibiotics over and over again.
Yes.
And
And
so I'm
that's not
sorry
good.
if I put
No,
like a
I'm teasing
distress
you. I'm just,
signal.
oh my
But I
God.
want to make sure I'm speaking to that female.
You're
I've learned to I need
right.
to
You're
speak
right.
to what you're
Yes.
experiencing, because I don't want you to think like, oh my God, I keep having these vaginal problems. So, I want to, and so if that is the case, if you're experiencing other things like vasomotor symptoms, you're noticing more brain fog, or areas where you need to look at a more complete picture based on some of the symptoms you could be experiencing. They may need to adjust what you're doing, and topical estrogen may be a consideration. At the same time, they may adjust to see whether you need to still be on your vaginal estrogen or whatever you decide to do for other symptom control, because that could possibly be able to help with the other parts as well. So there's different ways to think about it, but go back to, okay, why are you on the vaginal estrogen? If it was purely from a vaginal sense, then you're just getting symptom control. And the considerations beyond that should be what we know as far as improving quality of life with vasomotor symptoms, reducing risk of having bone fractures or improving bone health overall, and other quality of life type things that can include reduction of cardiovascular disease, risk of diabetes, etc. So I'm just kind of, putting those things where you can really get an individualized approach. Only because sake of time,
and
I'm
don't
running
forget
through here.
estradiol on your face.
Okay.
No, just kidding. That's estriol, not
Estriol.
estradiol. We're
It's
not talking about that
estriol.
today, but I
Yeah.
like it.
Estriol. Yeah, I can't wait to hear about all these things. Okay, so I want to make sure there was some of that. Your
Okay,
approaches are
Christine, who is also Ollie Cassie, which I learned yesterday. Those are her dogs' names.
mhm,
I just outed you, Christine. She says, yeah, we don't self-explode at 60 as long as we discuss it with an educated provider. Absolutely. Oh my goodness. Okay.
okay.
This is what I love about doing these monthly sessions, because we get to go deeper. Lulu says she loves her Aura Ring
Mhm.
too. I'm having Aura Ring envy right now, you too. Thinking Aura Ring versus Fitbit, again, that progressively
Mhm.
features. I'm addicted to my Apple Watch. I'm just saying. I don't even want,
Yeah.
if my husband's a watch guy, he's like, don't you want like a sexy this or that? I'm like, no,
No.
no, no, no. I can change my bands. Right now I'm all lavender all the time. Like, no,
Love
I
it,
need my
love
girl.
it.
So,
You love it, love it, love it.
mhm.
I was trying to scroll through, and I might have missed some questions before this, so I apologize. But I'm going to take Christy's question. Is it true, in your opinion, women of color often get worse menopause than Caucasian?
Mm,
Yes, and that is something that we have been able to pick
good
up.
study.
Yeah, in studies as far as when it comes to the length of menopausal type symptoms, the severity and frequency, when it comes to symptomatology in that area. So, and it can impact even more. I'm going to take it a step further in saying that this is also a population where symptoms are most often dismissed or devalued as well. So the whole inherent biases that exist in our community, and in particular our provider community, is real. It is true.
It's true.
Yeah, and it's something that even now when people see me, it's just like, oh, it's one of those, so it's a relatability as well. But I love seeing now in this community, as we're expanding and getting more eyes on it, that there are many women from different cultural backgrounds that are now becoming, part of that face of what menopause looks like. Because I mean, it's a natural thing that's going to happen to all of us that I want us to
Hopefully,
learn to embrace.
that's the goal. That's the
Yes,
goal. We want to go
yes,
through it.
yes.
LaReesa, I
Hmm.
know it's weird, 47 minutes after the hour.
Whoa.
You've just come from patients. I know you have more things,
Hmm.
more women to take care of today. So I don't want to keep
Hmm.
you all day. This has been
Hmm.
phenomenal. I knew it was going to
Hmm.
be a good, important topic.
Hmm.
And I'm just going to wrap, because Bronwyn says, love, love, love your approach as
Oh,
far as starting
thanks.
goes.
Thanks.
So
Hmm.
thank you for all you
Hmm.
do. Of course, MenoWell, we love you. I've known LaReesa before
Hmm.
that. And when I started MenoWell, I'm like, LaReesa, could you please be our medical advisor? And she
Yes.
said yes.
Hmm.
And I've been so grateful. So here's the
Absolutely.
thing.
Hmm.
Follow her at Dr. Larissa
Hmm.
on IG. She's sort of quiet over there, but she drops some. You like these
Yes.
nuggets and
Hmm.
truth bombs. She drops them over there on
Yeah.
her IG page.
Hmm.
If you're in Florida, go make an appointment with her. Go see her.
Yes,
Reach
yes.
out. If you're not in Florida, get on her calendar,
Hmm.
because you're going to love her approach, and we've got our beloved Mary Claire out there, but she has a super long waiting list, right? So who else are, you got to find a doctor that is got that same empowered philosophy and is going to meet you where you are, that you can actually get
Mm-hmm.
a meeting with,
Mm-hmm.
within a few weeks or so. So reach
Absolutely.
out and find Dr. LaReesa. You obviously, you already
Absolutely.
know this. You
Yeah.
won't be sorry. So
Absolutely not. Will they though? We'll do
good
it.
stuff.
Thank you
Well,
so much. Hopefully, yeah, definitely come and visit me in our mini lounge once a month. Follow me. Have some exciting things. And you're right, it's been silent hiatus, and this is just being truthful. Sometimes we get in seasons where we need to be quiet and reset or, gradually grow. And so that's what I've been focused on, really catering to my patients in Florida. And as Julie mentioned, I have two little ones. And so at the same time, I want to put it out there for women, and just being vulnerable in this point. When you have aging parents and you lose someone, which I experienced as well, you can only do what you can do in that moment and show up for
mhm.
those things that are so near and dear to you. And so if health and wellness is part of the core and something that you prioritize at this point, I'm going to ask you to be an active participant in that.
Mm. Wow.
All right.
Wow.
So that's my value. Hopefully that I'm bringing that, you know, look forward to sharing more and more and more.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
You are a treasure. You are a
Thank you.
treasure. And
Mm-hmm.
uh, we're going to see each other in person in
Yay.
November coming up here at
Yay.
Dr. Von der Wright's event coming up.
Awesome.
So look for all the places if you want to meet up with us and see Dr. LaReesa in person and see how
Yes.
tall she is. She's so tall and I'm so small. We're like this. Really good.
I
That's
love
all
it.
I
I love it. You're so funny. I love
do.
it. Okay.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank
thanks.
you. Love you.
Okay.
Get some rest. Do
Okay.
all the things.
Take
Thanks for
care.
your magic. Thanks for
All
being here,
right.
everybody.
Thanks.
Share this recording with other women that need to hear it because I know you know
Yes.
some, so don't just keep
Hmm.
it for yourself. All right.
Absolutely. Take care.
Be well.
Bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.